I'd like to open the Tuesday, June 12th, 2012 Committee of 13 meeting. First item on the agenda is public comments. These public comments at the beginning of the meeting are for a total of 30 minutes, up to 30 minutes, 3 minutes per person, and can be on any subject. Later on during the meeting, we will have item-specific public comments. Before we vote on each item, we will open the floor to public comment. We will have a total of 15 minutes and 3 minutes per person. So on those particular items, you will need to keep it to the item that we are currently discussing. As I said at the beginning of this meeting, you can bring up any subject that you'd wish to share with us. Anybody wishing to approach the body with a public comment? Okay, seeing none. Jay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules and all ordinances and resolutions to be read by title only.
Second.
Okay, motion and second on the floor. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. That's unanimous. Okay, that brings us to item 1. Clerk, please read by title only.
This is for discussion. Is that what you want?
Yes.
For Mayor Kevin Johnston and Dr. Randy Barnett, Superintendent of Gentry School District, Benton County's intent to enter into a payment in lieu of tax agreement pilot with Arkansas Electric Corporation, AECC, for the purpose of making certain environmental additions to the Flint Creek Power Plant.
Mr. Allen, can we have a motion on the floor to forward this to the Quorum Court?
Yeah, well, you just answered my question. I was going to ask why it's strictly discussion. I know we're going to have discussion, but I thought that it was to be voted on and either moved on.
Now, this is going to be in the form of a resolution at this point, right?
Yes. Okay, what we're going to be talking about here is the pilot project, and we can get into it in discussion so everybody understands it, but I'm going to make a motion that we approve this resolution and forward on to the Quorum Court.
Second.
Next Quorum Court meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and second on the floor now. You open the floor for discussion. As stated on the agenda, we have Mayor Kevin Johnson of Gentry and Dr. Randy Barnett, Superintendent of Gentry School District, as requested by the Finance Committee. Does anybody have any questions to ask them?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Jones?
I move that we recognize Mayor Kevin Johnston and Dr. Randy Barnett. As per our discussion in Finance Committee, we wanted to hear their thoughts on this pilot program and their potential impact, and if they agreed with it or not. So I'd like to recognize them if they're here to hear what their thoughts are on the subject.
Is the body in agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Please approach the microphone.
Well, I thank you very much for the invitation to come and have an opportunity to speak very briefly to you tonight. Good to see, I want to say old faces, I don't say familiar faces. I'm standing way back.
Mr. Barnett, for the purpose of the record, can you state your name and your position?
Yes, I'm Randy Barrett.
Barrett, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I am the superintendent of the Gentry School District. I didn't really have anything prepared to say to you tonight other than, to some degree, I guess for my entire life, I have been fed by the AECC. And I guess I should explain that. My father worked for C&L Electric as a groundsman for 30 years down in southeast Arkansas for C&L Electric. Obviously, that was our family income. For the last 20 years, I have been superintendent at the Gentry District. And in those 20 years, SWEPCO, or Flint Creek Power Company, has been a good neighbor and one of the major funding sources in our school district. Gentry was a very poor school district, if any of you know that, in the 70s. Just how they come to be there, but they did. And because of that, and because of the increase in the tax base, our district was able to move ahead through the foresight of some very wise predecessors of mine, school board members and administration, and we built some buildings and we were allowed to continue to do that. To the best of my understanding, what is being asked from the AECC is to have the assessed value of their improvements to the plant, their half of the plant, be replaced by in lieu of tax payments. I'm no stranger to that in the sense that McKee Foods, when I came to Gentry, was under a very similar, maybe identical arrangement in terms of it being Act 9 monies that we're talking about. And I can tell you today, McKee Foods Corporation and the Flint Creek Power Company are the two major industries in the Gentry School District and in the community of Gentry. All of you know we're primarily an agrarian community, and these are our two major industries. We cannot, with good conscience, put ourselves by having any kind of a negative opinion about what is being asked. I've looked at it. I think it's reasonable. And I have, because I am probably nearing the end of my tenure, as people like that are, I've developed a long-range vision past the time that undoubtedly I will not be there working in the Gentry School District. What happens with this plant 10 years down the road, and 15 years down the road, and 30 years down the road is more important to me than any initial loss of revenue and upfront dollars that we might lose by having them pay in lieu taxes rather than paying the full value of their assessed property. So I would encourage you tonight, I know there's a motion and there's been a second, I would encourage you as you move forward with this, that you give their request a favorable recommendation, and that we're not left in a lurch, so to speak, over in western Benton County. We need for this power plant to remain, and we look forward to the new jobs that's been hinted at, and hopefully the future possibility of additional families living within our school district. Thank you very much for your time, and I would try to answer any question that you might have, and other than my opinion, I'm not sure what I can respond to.
Ms. Sandlin?
Good question, Dr. Barrett. I just wanted to say thank you. I did want to hear your opinion in regards to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley. And thank you all.
Okay. Mayor Johnson? Or Johnston?
Thank you. My name is Kevin Johnston. I'm the mayor of the city of Gentry. I won't repeat what Dr. Barrett has said. I agree with everything that he has said so far. But I would like to point out the city of Gentry doesn't really have a financial stake in this as far as the taxes go, but we would greatly welcome the 19 permanent jobs, well-paying jobs that this facility would provide. And we would also welcome the 500 temporary jobs that could be for 2 or 3 years. So I definitely think it would be great for our city, it would be great for our county, it would be excellent for our region. So I too would be glad to answer any questions, but thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's open up the floor for regular discussion. Anybody have any? Yes, Mr. Hawkins.
Yeah, I would just like to ask a question of the committee. I guess I haven't been around here the last couple of weeks, been out of town, but is this something that the power company is asking for as a result? It would not be economical to come up with these additional capital expenditures if the taxes weren't waived, or does anybody?
I think Mr. Allen can answer that.
Yeah, basically the presentation to finance is the differences are, it's it's half owned by the co-op and half owned by, I keep calling it SWEPCO. SWEPCO is a your typical corporation, whereas the co-op is not a corporation. It's a corporation, a non-profit corporation. And if you're familiar with how nonprofits operate, that'll tell you a lot in itself as far as who has money to invest and do all that. The EPA is who is coming down on this. The discussion was the current climate for business with regards to coal, and that this is strictly a mandate coming down from the feds to improve their facility as far as complying with environmental standards. It's not going to increase the efficiency or increase any output at all. We won't see a difference in the output. It's just strictly money they have to invest because the EPA says so. So, to try to answer your question, they are. This is a significant amount of money. They're going to be $205 million estimated at this point, although that can change. The EPA could come in and change it to where it's going to be $1 billion. Who knows what it could be. It could be less. But at this point, they're applying for this. And even if they get it, they didn't say whether or not they would go forward and make the investment. And one of the options is to shut down the plant. And we certainly don't want to shut it down for obvious reasons we heard tonight as far as the benefits go. So I hope that answers your question as far as what's at stake and what they're asking for this pilot project, payment in lieu of taxes, as opposed to them investing money or borrowing money and going in and from another source and having to seek, I guess, the money from increases.
Oh, yeah, that answers my question quite well.
Mr. Jones?
I think the key points, and Tom hit on most of them, is there's no increase in what they're able to output. So there's no real increase in what they can bring in from sales of that output. And that this is being mandated, and they don't know what the mandate is. And this right now is, as Chairman Kurt alluded to, it's a resolution so that they can start their planning process and start figuring out how much they need to get and have a good plan when they come back and ask us for a set dollar amount, because they don't even know what that is. They said later this year that the EPA would actually give them the standards that they want them to meet, and then they'll have to figure it out from there. But they're trying to get ahead of the game so that they meet their deadline, because the EPA, once they give them the requirements, they have 2 or 3 years to meet it.
But the improvements they would make would increase property taxes, in other
significantly,
words, because of increased appraised value or whatever, because of the capital investment. But yet
they have no way to increase their revenue. And I'm definitely in favor of this, especially after hearing from 2 potentially large stakeholders in outside of the county, inside the county, but not the county.
No, yeah, I think it was probably a great idea. I would argue that kind of along the same lines, that they could probably get this waiver without even coming through us by virtue of arguing that it's not raising their property value and assessed value, because they're not increasing revenue or anything like that. So in that sense, I think they could probably get to that same place anyway.
Kevin Harrison?
I agree with it, and it's funny, I learned something new. The county doesn't do the appraised value of these plants, the state does, so I doubt seriously they'd get it waived. But I see this being proactive and seeing it as a kind of win-win situation, and I'm definitely in support of it, and I think that this is going to be a good thing for the county and a good thing for them, and I can't see them wanting to just walk away from that big investment. I mean, even if they were, somebody would want to buy it, and they would be more inclined to do that instead of shutting it down if this goes with it. And what I also like that Mr. Allen pointed out to me is, if for some reason the EPA changes courses, then this does not happen unless they do the improvements. And so we don't lose anything unless they do the improvement.
Mr. Douglas?
Yeah, I just want to point out to everybody to remember that there will be no loss in current revenue or taxes that are being paid. So that's going to remain stable. So it's not like asking for a tax cut. It's a reduction of future possible taxes. And you go through this whole waste scenario to justify it, but that's basically what it is forgiving future taxes on this equipment they're being forced to put in. Would point out that the power plant, keep on calling it SWEPCO, it's not just SWEPCO, it's AECC, Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation, together have been a good neighbor, not just to the Gentry area, but to all of Benton County. SWEPCO Lake has turned into a good fishing place over there, a good recreation area. The tree farm over there, they've done all sorts of good environmental stewardship things. They are a good neighbor. They contribute to law of taxes, help the Gentry School District, which in turn helps the entire region. And the jobs that they have over there are well-paying jobs for the area. And we need to do whatever we can in our power to make sure that we're good neighbors back to them and help them any way we can here.
Ms. Sandlin?
And I would just add that over the years we've done a number of Act 9, which is what this will ultimately be called. And it has always been beneficial to the cities, school districts, and the county. So I'm very much in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay. As originally stated, this is simply a resolution of intent on our part. Any actual ordinances will come forward at a later time once they discover exactly how much they're going to need. But they wanted to make sure that the county was on board at this early juncture, and that we're simply indicating that that we are. Are we ready to vote? If so, I'll open the floor up for public comment. Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and do a roll call on this.
Dale King?
Yes.
Franklin Scott?
Yes.
Jay Harrison?
Yes.
Tom Allen?
Yes.
Kevin Harrison?
Yes.
Herb Hawkins?
Yes.
Joel Jones?
Yes.
Shirley Sandlin?
Yes.
Dan Douglas?
Yes.
Michelle Blady?
Yes.
Steve Curry?
Yes.
Patrick Carr?
Yes.
Kurt Moore?
Yes.
13 yeas, bad.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Superintendent. You can stay around for the meeting or leave, whatever you see fit, but I appreciate you coming and giving your testimony to us on this item.
Someone said that you was going to win coming to a meeting like this. You was either going to win coming or you was going to win by leaving. I think I'm going to win both ways tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, this item 2 is simply discussion. We have quite a few people here that are interested in the county's appointment to the Equalization Board. They have until 22nd to turn in resumes, so we can't make a decision at this point. But I thought that you guys might be wanting to ask questions of the applicants and also hear them talk a little bit about themselves. So at this point, I'll open or ask Mr. G.R. Bandy to come forward, and if he's here, and just talk just a little about yourself and why you're wanting this position, and then answer any questions the Quorum Court may have.
I have just, heard of the vacancy, and I figured that my background in residential housing, building and development, and And I've been a licensed real estate broker and salesperson since 1982 in Texas, Arkansas, and California. And I work for new home builders and developers in Texas and California. And so I think I have a good grasp of the values. It was my responsibility to do pricing of products relative to one another. And so I think my understanding of the value of real estate and what adds to that or leads to that would be valuable in this position. And basically, I see that this is a necessary hearing for people to be able to come to and appeal whatever judgment has been or value has been placed on their property if they don't feel that it's fair, and gives them that voice. And I would like to be involved in hearing that and contributing to the decision.
Mr. Jones, did you have a question?
Oh, I'll have a question for everybody that comes up, kind of like a standing question.
So you aren't discriminating against me?
No, I'm not. No favor, no discrimination. Could everybody tell us if they have taken something before the Equalization Board and gone through that process before?
I have not.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. Kevin Harrison.
Have you got familiar with the Equalization Board? During that period of time, you hear a lot of cases. It's a lot of long days. And I don't, it takes a lot of time to do that over the course of a couple of months, if I'm not mistaken. Are you prepared to put in the time? And this also will be a question I'd like to hear from everyone that it's going to take to really do this.
I have nothing but time anymore for that.
Okay.
So that is another reason I'm just looking for something that would enable me to contribute in some way.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Bandy?
Thank
you.
Much.
Okay, the next person is Richard D. Brown. Is Mr. Brown here? Okay. Let's see, Doris Burton.
I'm here.
Please come forward.
My name is Doris Burton, and I moved here from California in 1977. I live in Rogers. I lived in the same house. In September of this year will be 36 years. Benton County's been good to us. I consider myself a native Californian, really, because I first went out there when I was 7 years old during World War II with my parents. My dad was a farmer in eastern Arkansas, not making any money, sharecropping. If you know about eastern Arkansas, the flat land, it's cotton country. Only now, it's not cotton. The cotton's been replaced with rice. It's rice fields and mosquitoes. So take your deed. Planted a trip over there. And anyway, I'm a retired wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother. Benton County's been good to us the whole 36 years. So I just feel like I have plenty of time, and I want to give back, something back.
Okay, Mr. Jones, you have your standing question.
Have you gone through the equalization process before?
No, I haven't. No.
She answered.
Okay. I was looking on your resume, and do you have any actual real estate experience as a sales associate?
In California, yes.
Okay.
3 years. in the Bay Area, San Francisco, East Bay. We live in East Bay, which includes Berkeley, Oakland, Emeryville, San Pablo, and, well, anyway, the University of California is Berkeley. And we lived there during the 60s. When we were on the news every night. They were burning their draft cards and getting liberated.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Ms. Burton? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is Rich Coleman here?
My name is Rich Coleman, and I've been a member of the Equalization Board for 4 years, and last year when I was due to be reappointed, I had back surgery, and I couldn't make it to the meeting. I hope that's the reason you guys didn't reappoint me. I don't know. But anyhow, guys, there's all kind of qualifications for this position, and everybody keeps talking about real estate, but experience you're not going to beat. I have 4 years on there. 3 out of those 4 years have been the busiest the Board of Equalization has ever been in Benton County. We had a breakdown into boards of 3. So you get an idea the learning curve sure moved up real fast. So I would say I have the equivalency of about 8 to 9 years on the board. It's not something simple, folks. You don't learn it in a year or 2. Everybody talks about residential. That's a very small portion of it. If you're not familiar with the commercial, that's where the millions of dollars comes into the Benton County. The Walmarts and the big stores, Target, and all these other ones. Based on experience, I have all the other qualifications, 18 years. I've got education, 1 year law school, which doesn't mean anything in this position. But I do have the experience, and to me, that's the most important thing. The only 2 things that I ask you. This is not a time for new blood. I mean, we need experience, folks. That board right now has several new members on there, and they're hurting. I know it as a fact. And the other thing is, please don't let geographics play into this thing, because maybe years ago, when we needed somebody that was familiar with farm, country, that's fine. But now, you could take 9 members from the same town, and with the information we have from the county clerk's office, the assessor's office, they could all make good decisions. So, I'd appreciate your consideration. Does anybody have any questions? I asked you if I've been to the board. I've been on the board, so I didn't have to go through but I did. When I owned a Montenay Inn here in Rogers, and years ago, I went before the board on that.
And I assume you have the time.
I'll tell you what, Kurt, I don't consider this a job fulfillment thing. I am not being, a bunch of baloney, but we've always been community minded. The first year I was on the board, I wasn't even aware that it paid, so that'll give you an idea of my commitment. I have never missed a day in the 4 years that I was there. So, I'll be there. Thank you very much, unless somebody else has questions.
Good to see you again, Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Sean.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Is Leslie Ford here?
I actually started out with Benton County in 1994. Started out in data entry and worked my way up to senior appraiser. So I've had to defend value for the county in that time period in Equalization Board hearings. 99 to 2003, I did state contract work in 3 other counties and also had to set and defend values. So I am familiar with the process. Got my fee license in 99, and I do a little bit of residential appraisal.
Mr. Jones?
She answered it.
Okay.
I need to ask it.
Kevin Harrison?
I think she knows what it takes, so if she says she's got time, I think she does.
Yes, I have time. I'd like to get back a little.
Does anybody else have any questions for her? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is Susan Fraser here?
evening. Those are kind of tough acts to follow. We've been Benton County residents for over 10 years. I was looking for an opportunity to serve my community. I have the time. I would like an opportunity to serve my community. I love this area. I have served on the Planning Commission previously, so I do understand what is involved. I understand that sometimes people are upset when they come forward, and you have to be a mediator at times. I have not personally gone before an equalization board before, but my family did in Baxter County, and it's kind of a funny story. My parents had bought some property there and had an old wash house on there, and they had appraised it as a home. And my mother went before the equalization board and said, have any of you seen this property? And none of them had. And one of the fellows said, well, but I'll drive by there on my way home. And she said, well, you can throw a cat through the walls, and the only thing that's ever been in there was it's a wash house, washer and dryer. So he drove by, and yes, it was falling down little, 5x4 little wash house, and he said, sure enough, it wasn't not a home. So they voted to, that it was not a residential property. That wasn't truly my experience with an equalization board, but I am very familiar with what they do.
Did you say you had served on the Planning Commission?
In Baxter County for 2.5 years, yes.
Okay. The County Planning Board? Or
City?
City? Okay.
City Planning Commission, yes.
Which city? Mountain Home?
Mountain
Okay,
Home.
thank you. Does anybody have any questions for? Okay, well, thank you. Okay. Albert Langley.
I have to agree with her. This is a hard act to follow. If y'all have my resume or my letter of intent there, for 25 years I've been an unpaid advocate for teachers and students in the public education system, K-12 through university level. 21 of those years I worked very closely with the Texas legislature on education issues. In 1990, the chief deputy of Leroy County down in Texarkana asked me if I'd come on board and help them modernize the sheriff's department, and I agreed to do that. And of course, it was an unpaid job, and I wound up last August retiring after 21 years as a deputy sheriff in Leroy County, unpaid. And so I've just dedicated the last 25 years of my life to public service. And my education's out of Texas A&M University in high-tech electronics, which doesn't make you qualified for anything. And so I am familiar with the Equalization Board and what it does. I have appeared before them a couple of times. It's a fairness board, and that's what I've dedicated my life to for the last 25 years, to bring some fairness to our society. And so if y'all want to consider me, although there's some obviously highly qualified people here tonight, I actually answered the call tonight because I had read in the newspaper that they had advertised and no one had applied for it, and I was really surprised about that. I've actually lived in Benton County for the last 3 years only. My wife is a math intervention specialist for the Bentonville School District. She agreed to come up here 3 years ago and drug me off up here too, and I wished we'd have come 20 years ago. But eventually, essentially, that's what my life has been about. And if I have any talents that I could offer y'all, I'd be happy to share them with you. And of course, being a volunteer all these years, obviously I've got a lot of time on my hands. So if there's any questions I might ask, you might ask me, that'd be great.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Langley? Thank you very much, sir.
Appreciate it.
Is David McCabe here?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Dave McCabe, and I'm an old banker. I was 28 years president of First Central Bank in Iowa, Des Moines, Osceola. I helped start development there in Ankeny. Worked with the builder there until he completed. I opened a development out at Winter Park. It used to be known as Hideaway Village. Maybe some of you are skiers and you know where that's at. And I worked out there and developed that, and also started a little bank in Granby. So I have a financial background. Appraisals, I have read probably 1,000, maybe more. In other words, the last few years that I was on the board. And when I came to Northwest Arkansas 21 years ago, I opened up a company called Northwest Escrow. And I also have a company called Access Title. We closed up Northwest Escrow 2 years ago. Access Title still exists. I have investment in commercial property, which we're trying to sell. Anyone interested, we'll be glad to talk to you. So I think I'm qualified. I have worked with realtors for the past 19 years. I think I probably know most of them in Northwest Arkansas. And again, when it comes to an appraisal, I don't have any problem sitting down and reviewing. When in Iowa, I was a certified review appraiser. And I don't know whether that would do any good here, because I was in Iowa over the weekend and they told me that I hadn't kept my dues up, so I'm no longer a certified review appraiser. But I feel like I'm qualified. I feel like that I'm full of piss and vinegar. I'm only 77, and I'm ready to work. And I hope, in other words, that you'll give some consideration to my resume. If you have questions, I'll be glad to answer. And no, I have not been before the review board.
I think he has the time. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. McCabe? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, is Leroy Meyer here?
Well, I'm Leroy Meyer. I've been involved in building homes and real estate virtually all my life, which is a long time now. And I was in Iowa, Colorado, and then we moved here in 1988. And about 5 years ago or so, when the housing market kind of went south, I quit building, thought, well, I'll retire. Well, that lasted about 30 days. I was going dingbats, so I updated my real estate license, made it active again. So basically, I'm a part-time realtor right now. I'm semi-retired, so I've got all the time in the world. And I have never appeared before the board personally. I have assisted other people in preparing comparables, etc., to appear before the board. But on my personal stuff, I've always had good values.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, sir. Mary Ann Rowe. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You did.
Thank you. Probably the first time.
We'll pronounce it Rao, and so that always takes me by surprise when someone gets it right.
Oh, first time tonight.
I am Mary Ann Rowe, and I am a realtor, and I've been a realtor, a full-time realtor for 10 years. I've lived in Benton County for 20 years, and we just love it here. And I've spent a lot of time re-educating myself. When the market crashed, it went down. It didn't really crash. It went down a bit. And with all the different types of housing and situations we have now, like with short sales and HUD homes and foreclosures, which we never experienced those before, I've had to, and not had to, but I have stayed where I go to every class I can take to keep myself up to date on what's going on. And I pride myself in being a very ethical person, ethical realtor. And I would really love to be on this board. I heard about it, and I thought it was very interesting. I think as a realtor, I do have a lot to offer. I know I could also learn an awful lot from being on the board, and it would make me a better realtor. And I would really like that to be able to do that. I've never been before the board myself, but I've had a client that's been twice. And so I've learned a little bit from him, because one time he was really aggravated, and the second time he finally came to the realization of why his taxes were the way they were. So, and I've always been pleased with my taxes, especially coming from up north. I've always been pleased with them, so I've never personally been before the board.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Slager, did I get that right?
Hey, you're one of few.
Wow, 2 in a row.
You know, someone said a minute ago that disgruntled people, you know, when you deal with real estate and the Equalization Board, I don't think nothing could compare being an umpire in a t-ball game and calling a little t-ball player out on 3 strikes. Now that's pressure. And disgruntled people. But anyway, getting away from that, some of you know, Dan, Charlie, Kevin, I was president of the Little League Board, president of the Babe Ruth Board, and the American Legion coordinator for baseball. For 19 years, I was in the baseball program. For 14 years, I was in the Pee Wee football program. Me and 4 other people originated Pee Wee football in Bentonville in 1977. That is part of my serving the community. And when I got out of that, I thought, what can I do to serve children? The Kiwanis Club came along. That's where I met Kevin. And I've been a member of that for the last 11 years. But to get back to real estate and my background, I was in business here in Bentonville for 32 and a half years. I saved a lot of souls, did a lot of healing, and attended to the dying needs of a lot of people. I was a shoe repairman. And while I was in shoe repair, real estate came along. In 1976, I believe it was, I got my first piece of property. Prior to, after my home, we got our home in 72, something like that. And I started accumulating some rental property. Right now, we've sold some, and right now we only have 13 units. But I know what real estate is in Bentonville. I know what real estate is in Centerton. I know what real estate is in Rogers. I was a realtor for 5 years. When I decided to retire from the shoe repair, I thought, what can I do? Well, the idea of real estate came along, and I'll tell you what, to go back to school and learn about real estate through their courses, I thought, wow. Getting back into the learning mode. But it didn't take but about a week to do that, and I passed my real estate test, became a realtor, and, I really love working with people. Now, judging what they should pay or not pay, that's a different story. But my background, I think, gives me enough experience and enough common sense to say whether the property is worth X number of dollars or it's not. And yes, I have been before the Equalization Board, seen how it worked. Yeah, it could be a hard job if you let it. Like being the JP, it could be a hard job if you let it. But if you didn't like it, you wouldn't be doing it. And that's the way with me in everything that I go to do. I go to win. As Shirley will verify, you know, I'm a bad loser. So anyway, that's enough of me. Does anybody have a question or anything about my past or whatever?
We won't mention that.
I appreciate that.
You're right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Tony Stoffel.
My name is Tony Stoffel. I'm originally from Switzerland. I'm 51 years in the United States. My career started in the newspaper field, where I spent 34 years with Rockwell as a field engineer. I traveled the whole world multiple times. I retired in 14 years ago, and I went to work for my wife, who owned an appraisal company in Illinois, in the Chicago suburban area. I passed all the exams and did my credit hours and got certified in the state of Illinois. I moved last year to Benton County and retired. However, I also renewed my appraiser license. I'm a certified appraiser in the state of Arkansas, and I'm also an FHA appraiser. Our residence is in Bella Vista, and we are retired, semi-retired. I want to stay active, and I will renew my license for 2012. I had been before the Equalization Board last year, and I got my taxes reduced. If anybody got any questions, I'm gladly answer.
Ms. Sandlin, do you have a question?
Not a question, but I've heard one statement made about 4 different times, and I'll have to excuse me, Mr. Stoffel. The assessor's office is not in the business of levying taxes. Your sole requirement is to make certain that the value is correct of the property, not considering taxes. But thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, our next person is, let me get this right. Two up? No. Douglas True.
Hello, my name's Doug True. I have been before the Equalization Board twice. Actually, I've been before the board. I was able both times to resolve it through telephone calls and just discussions with the appraiser. But so I've had some experience with that. My real estate experience, as far as being on the Equalization Board, would just be my jobs as a realtor. I've been working 8 years in this market. I do a lot of foreclosure work for our best, a lot for HUD, Housing Urban Development, just different corporations, and that's pretty much been our market here lately until recently. I think the Equalization Board needs somebody that's currently involved in the market. There's a lot of volatility right now. We have been seeing a lot of appreciation in the market. Currently, however, there was just a judgment last month made. There are foreclosures that have been held back for more than a year are just now hitting the market this month. And so we'll soon be in a different market than we are now. And just for those reasons, I think it's good to have somebody that's current with what's going on, that's involved with the market as far as, because basically that's what drives it, is foreclosures. And, you know, when we're in a foreclosure market, we're going down. When we get them bought up, we go up. And, anyway, hopefully this next time we can get them bought up and keep them, you know, and keep the market stable. But that's about it. That's my qualifications. If anybody's got any questions for me.
Since you're currently employed, is it?
Yes. My schedule, you know, gives me flexibility. But yes, I currently.
Because this would probably take at least 2 months, maybe more of your time every day, 5 days a week.
Yes. Most of the stuff I do, unfortunately, nowadays we don't work with people too much, or at least mine as far as selling. I spend, used to, I spend it with sellers. Now I spend it if I'm on a disk on a computer, corporation. So that's can be done at any hour of the day or night, unfortunately.
Well, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Beverly King Usher.
Thank you for the opportunity of being here. I'm a real estate broker. I've been a broker in the state of Arkansas since 1985. I have done, first of all, I've never been before the board, but I certainly have sent clients before the board. And it gave them a dose of reality because in the beginning of our decline, I was looking for another word, but anyway, there were a lot of people talking to a lot of brokers about how could they do this, blah, blah, blah. And so the only way, without getting into a whole course on how you determine market value, the best thing to do to resolve their problems was to help them present their case before the board. I have never been before the board. I do not know the process specifically. I began my career in California and was hired as a director of research for an ITT company called Levitt Sons of California when they entered the market there. And my job was to find properties and to do the reports that would indicate that they could be built on, and that whether it was commercial property or it was residential property for large subdivisions, the basis for the work I did was, would the bank go along with us, basically, if we did it, and what would be the takeout for our clients when they bought. Then I moved to Arizona, had a broker's license in Arizona, and I worked for a Arkansas company, and it was Fairfield Community, but it was at Flagstaff at their golf club there. Then I came to Arkansas in 1982 from California, kind of back and forth. And we've been here, with the exception of a short 6 years where I needed to go back to Arizona to take care of my mother. I've been here since 2001. I have been a broker here active. I had my own business in Centerton for 4 years. I was experiencing some physical difficulty. I was falling, and I ignored it, and I went to work I shut down my business and I went to work for Exit Pro Realty as an executive broker. And in October, I fell twice in the office, and I did a lot more damage than I thought, so I've had surgery and I'm recovering at this moment. That's why I'm not working. I'm interested in the board because I, in the past, have been a person who has been involved with a lot of community work. which is in my resume. I really don't need to go into that, but I'm interested in it because I have the time now, and I cannot go back into real estate for some time. In other words, I can't do a lot of walking. I can do sitting, but I can't do a lot of walking where you have to go show houses and drive a lot at this point in time. That's about it. I've also done, appraisers don't like to hear me say this, but I've had banks from out of state contact me to do BPOs for both commercial and residential real estate before we were told we couldn't do that anymore. So I've had that experience and successful at that. So I understand the valuations. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And last is Trey Weaver. Trey Weaver? No. Okay, we can't move on any of these applicants at this time, and I don't know about the rest of the court, but I'm going to have a very tough time deciding who the one person who's most qualified with this very distinguished body that came before us. But that's pretty much where we're going to have to leave it at this moment. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you can leave now if you wish.
Kurt, I have a question. Do you have any idea when you make this decision?
We will be making this decision at the next Quorum Court meeting, which is what date? 28th.
Yeah, 28th, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, June 28th, right here. Yes, sir.
So are we forwarding everybody to the Quorum Court, and we're going to, is that what you're saying, and we're going to discuss, we'll have time to mull over this, is that what you're saying?
Yes. I was wanting to maybe have a discussion and do a resolution, but since the application time is still open, I don't think it would be proper or fair to close it at this time. Yes, sir.
I move that we forward all these applicants to the next Quorum Court meeting.
Second.
Okay, motion and second on the floor. Discussion. Okay, signify your approval by raising your hand. Against, like sign. Okay, that's unanimous. So we will be we're going to, of course, look at resumes, and the way we'll probably do it, and help me out with this, Richard, is we could probably go into executive session and discuss the merits of the applicants, and maybe whittle it down to 2 or 3 if we want to hear some additional or have some additional questions, and then whittle it down to 1, and then bring the court back into session.
I think so. We can check with George.
Right.
And find out.
Having done this before, I think that's the way we did it. Does anybody have any questions on the process? Yes.
We can check with George, our county attorney, but I don't know if it's necessary to go to executive session for an appointment. I mean, we can go to discuss personnel matters, but I'm not sure it covers Equalization Board appointees. We might want to cover that with George and with Barb. You can only call executive session for certain things.
Okay. And what we might also consider is maybe have a committee of 13, a very brief committee of 13 before we start the Quorum Court meeting, maybe a half hour, and then we can go over the applications and maybe come up with a resolution for the Quorum Court. Does that sound like a good idea?
Sounds reasonable.
Okay. So let's, Mr. Winscott.
I guess my question centers around the applicants that we may get applications for between now and the Quorum Court. Will we bring those before?
Yeah, we would, if we have a committee of 13 meeting.
Bring those before the.
Do you think a half hour would be enough?
Depends on how many we get.
Yeah. Let's kind of keep. Pardon me.
I'm sorry. When's the cutoff?
22nd.
10 days.
Let's kind of keep our options open. If we get several additional applicants, we might go ahead and have a meeting beginning at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
We'll just have to play it by ear. If we don't get any additional applications, probably 5:30 would be sufficient. Yes, sir.
Do all the applicants need to be present at the next Quorum Court meeting?
Not necessarily. We have interviewed you or had the opportunity to interview you here. I don't see any particular reason to call you again. If they had any questions to ask you, this would be the time to ask.
We've got your information.
Plus, we have your resumes. And Mr. Jones?
It won't be looked. I won't look at it unfavorably if you're not there. You were here tonight, so
yeah,
that's a big plus.
You'll all be available if we want to take you to lunch or something like that.
Where are you going to take us?
And are you by?
Mr. Douglas?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I was just thinking, seeing the unusually large group of well-qualified individuals here applying for this position, maybe we should recheck the pay rate. We may be paying a little bit too much here. We might have to find the budget.
Duly noted.
Get on there.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to just personally reiterate what you said. I'm just really impressed and thankful that so many well-qualified citizens of the county are showing up to do this, because it's a thankless job, but it's a necessary job. And very thankful that all of you are interested, because you're all qualified. You're all well qualified, and I want to thank you for coming out.
Second.
Okay, as
a seasoned citizens.
Wow.
Discrimination.
Okay, to summarize.
Move down so they throw things.
Yeah.
To summarize,
right here.
depending if we get several additional applicants, we'll probably meet at 5 o'clock. If we do not get several additional applicants, we'll probably meet at 5:30. Keep an eye on the Benton County website. It'll give the correct time for the meeting. Then at 6 o'clock we'll have our regular Quorum Court meeting, and we should be able to hopefully come to the difficult decision and have a name ready for the resolution. Okay, as I said, if you're wanting to stay for the rest of the meeting, go ahead and stay. If not, this would be probably a good time to leave.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm shocked. You don't want to...
In Department 44, Road Department, Fund 020.
Mr. Allen.
I thought the judge was always asking for 20,000.
We can do 20,000.
Look at Scott.
How many miles of road does that pave?
25. We had a lot of discussion about this in finance, and it passed unanimous to come to this committee. And for those of you that weren't here, what we talked about is the fact that several factors. One is the weather's been ideal conditions to do a lot of work, as in past years with snow, ice, earthquakes, whatever you have. But they've got a lot of work done, and they've got new management, and they've really accomplished a lot. And they're also paving and chipping and sealing more roads. And they've pinpointed a few roads that I don't know if it's on this dashboard. Is it on the dashboard that we've looked at in finance?
No.
It's not. You can look on finance dashboard if you like. But they have actually listed out several roads that they want to take care of, and the reason they've identified those roads were not necessarily by geography, but because those roads were able to be preserved at this point in time with the least amount of money, if they neglect those roads any longer, they're going to go into such disarray that it will cost a small fortune to repair those. So long story short, they're asking for $500,000 to be appropriated to the road department in addition to what was budgeted already. And the discussion, part of the reason that it was approved by everybody was the fact that, as everybody knows, we had money set aside for Colonel Myers, which was $600,000, and it's only going to cost us $60,000. Is that correct? So we've got $540,000 we know right there on that bridge alone that we can simply move it over to this and so to speak, not cost us any extra money, although that line item is still there. So, long story, I move that we approve this request and this ordinance and send it to the Quorum Court meeting.
Second. Discussion. If you have any questions, you might direct them to Scott Stober. Any questions? Discussion? If not, everyone signify your approval of this proposed ordinance by raising your hand. Opposed, like sign. Okay, thank you. Item 4.
An appropriation ordinance amending appropriation ordinance number 2011-61, 2012 Benton County budget, appropriating additional monies and authorizing additional expenditures in Department 64, Circuit Judge Freyoff, Adult Drug Court Grant, Fund 461.
Mr. Allen.
This is, as you can see in Article 2, it's drug court. It's the grant money we get. And simply put, they're going to use this for travel as it's listed there, as you can see. It was going to be spent next year. They've decided to take care of this year. So it's going to get spent either way. So if we were to think about not doing this for saving money, it was going to get spent anyway. So it's just a matter of taking care of business this year as opposed to next year. It came out of finance with unanimous approval, and I move that we approve this and send it on the Quorum Court.
Second. Okay, motion and second on the floor. Discussion? Seeing none, yes, Ms. Blady?
Hang on, I'm trying to formulate a thought, so that might take a while. I know, right?
Miss coming from a brunette.
The education and training, who is that training? Who is being trained? And what are they going to training for?
Drug court.
I asked that question of Katie Rose today, earlier, and Michelle did not know that, so that's just a coincidence. There are 6 people: Michelle Barrett, Susan Nordsey, Judge Freyoff, Nikki Connors, Brian Sexton, Dee Scritchfield. They're the 6 people that work in the drug court program. And they'll all be going at the same time. Instead of originally, they were going to spread it out over 2 years and go into groups. And part of it is to save money. They'll do travel together, they'll do hotels together, they'll do carpooling together, stuff like that. That's part of their reason.
Kevin Harrison.
Well, I mean, I'm for this, but my only question is, don't we have a new judge coming in there?
Yes.
And are we going to have a new staff, and are they going to have to go through this very same training? So would it not be maybe wise to wait and train the new staff that's coming in? If we've got another year to do it, I mean, that's my only concern. I mean, we know we got a new judge and maybe new staff. So I just don't want to have to spend this again to retrain.
This training's already happened. It happened a few months ago. It's a budget adjustment.
Wow.
Yeah.
That probably happened before the election.
That was my question. Did it happen before the election?
I believe so. The email that...
I didn't see that part of it.
Yeah.
I just got it when I got here. So.
But he was appointed, so we knew he wasn't going.
When they did the training, they were not aware that it was put into the third year. They just did their budget and they thought they could do the training at the beginning of the grant.
Mr. Allen?
Where was the travel?
I can find out for you about the Quorum Court or anything else you need to know about.
But they're implementing things that they've already trained for in this year.
Yeah, but we'll probably end up, and there's nothing we can do about it now, but we'll probably end up having to spend around the same amount of money to train the new judge and new staff.
It would only be the new judge unless the new judge, because this is a prosecutor, it's a public defender, it's not the person that works for the judge.
Okay.
These aren't the people that were trained.
So
possibly the new judge, but these other people work for other elected officials and other agencies.
Okay. That makes me feel better.
And there won't be any more travel money. This is the travel money for both years of the grant.
Okay.
Any additional questions, discussion?
I guess
Yes, Mr. Winscott?
this is probably not the place and time to ask this, but how can we do this without the approval and them having the money to do it?
They got money in other line items in the budget to be moving.
You're still.
I'm finished. I don't know that I got an answer.
Yes, Mr. Carr?
I think to answer your question, Justice Winscott's bottom line is they spent the money and we're over the barrel here. Either we get the money back from the grant or we lose it. That leaves a real bad taste in my mouth. I don't like when employees do that. I think that's bad business, especially other elected officials. That's just not good business. And that's not good for our taxpayers either to be forced into this position where they're going to basically use the funds however they like and then say, well, we have a grant for it. Well, they don't have a grant if this board decides they have a grant. That just isn't good business. And I'll support it because I don't see any way we can get around not supporting it, but boy, I just don't like it.
Ms. Sandlin?
Okay, I can see the irritation.
Can you feel it?
I have felt it before, but by the same token, the county, when they're training staff, in educating them in the positions, it's never a loss to the county. The county always benefits.
I hear you and I understand that, but that's not the point of our discussion, at least my discussion. Justice Carr can speak for himself.
But from the sounds of it, only one person, and ultimately will still be a judge, is not going to use it in the same capacity that it was originally sought.
Mr. Jones?
It's not a blank check to say that education is good. We know education is good, but it's still the process and our responsibility to allocate those funds to training and education before they get spent. Are we truly over a barrel? Does it have to come out of this? Where is the money coming from? What are the line items coming from? Where is it being? Where are we changing hands here? We should have just maybe we missed this in finance, so I'm asking it here. What?
We talked about this in finance. It's basically a draw. Is that correct?
We do a drawdown on the grant. This was a 2-year grant, and it was just the money for training was put in the second year instead of the first. This was approved through the court. The training was approved through the court. The members were approved through the court. This is not intentional. It was the budget was just put into the second year instead of the first. The intention was always to do it in the first year, was my understanding.
They just did it earlier. But it's the same money.
Same money, same grant. 2 years.
Travel money was put in there for 2 years. It's just being spent the first year. It won't be spent the second year.
And this judge is going to remain in this position for how long?
6 January.
And the point being is that it's implemented now. They're getting the benefit of the training they had. He's not like he's leaving next month. He's going to be there for the duration of the year. So he is responsible for this. Therefore, it's not as
bad as it seemed previously.
It's not money they didn't have approved for travel, they just had it approved for travel next year.
The only issue I see is that there's a judge that's going to change. And if the training was supposed to take place next year, it would have been the new judge coming in, but you still would have had a year operating without training with the current judge. So it's one half dozen the other. Either go a year without training. So it's not that big of an issue. Now that we know more about it. And it's only, what, 2 Herman Miller chairs?
Yeah.
That's right.
Ouch!
That's right.
Good cheers.
They are pretty comfortable.
Good chairs.
Do we have Herman Miller chairs?
Was this first class airfare?
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of sending this to the Quorum Court, raise your hand.
Chairman?
Yes.
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment.
Yes, I do have one.
Okay.
Yeah, my name's Brent Myers. I live in Lowell. Question I have is I've heard that the money is appropriated, could be for next year, but is there a reduction in next year's budget? Also, they said it's coming from another line item. What line item is to be reduced? It's only $6,400, but where is the offset if it's next year's money or a reallocation of this year's money?
Because it's a drawdown, it's not in the budget. You have to apply for it.
That answers that. Thank you.
Can I point out something too, that each department head has the ability within the 2 sections of moving money around without coming to the court. Okay? There might not be a line item there for it, but they can move it from one line item to another without coming to the court.
It's making appropriation and we approve the budget. I don't think that's entirely accurate. Richard.
Yeah, as long as they're not appropriating more money. Yes, it is. Okay, within the sections of supplies and other services.
What's the purpose of us going through a budget process, a line item? We set a budget.
You set this rule up. You set the rule up from capital expenditures and personnel costs. It comes back to you. But between inside the services and the supply section, transfers can be made from one item to another with the court order from the judge.
But it still goes before the judge.
Right.
Mr.
But
Winscott?
that's something you did as an ordinance. That court did as an ordinance years ago.
Was I?
I wasn't even here.
No, I was going to say that.
I wasn't even here.
You've always been able to.
So I didn't do that.
Sure, before you.
Mr. Winscott?
Richard, are you saying that if we put something in the budget to buy a piece of equipment, whatever that is, that then when it's approved and you're in that year of operation, that department head can decide not to buy that piece of equipment and spend it on something else?
No, because it's equipment, capital expenditures is an item you
give
can
a
control.
bad
But if somebody put in for operating supplies $1,000 and didn't have anything for other services and wanted to spend $500 on other services, they could put $500 out of operating supplies to other services.
So everything else except capital equipment
And personnel.
Personnel and capital equipment, you all has to come back before y'all. We've been through this several times.
Well, just refresh our memory.
Okay. So, but the other 2 sections, supplies and other services, can be moved with this court order.
So
But this doesn't pertain to this particular item. I'm just giving you that information.
the only reason that we're seeing this is because it's a grant.
And it's being moved from one year to the next. But what I was trying to point out, it's common for the department heads to make these kind of decisions throughout the year.
I don't want to hear
Mr. Jones?
Richard, I'm not mad at you. I'm not. Okay, so.
That's right.
but I slightly disagree with what you're saying. I understand about the capital personnel, and that this is not one of those things. But this is an allocation of a new allocation of money. It's from next year. It's in the same grant.
I agree with you.
But it wasn't allocated in.
Doesn't apply to this.
It was okay. I mean, it was not allocated in this year.
That's correct.
So we are allocating new money, and I think that should have come before us before it was spent, because we are allocating money that was not anywhere in this year's budget. Is that correct?
Don't disagree.
Okay. Then we're gonna. I mean, it's already been spent. We got to make it up one way or another. But I disagree with that, and I think that that's the process. Is new allocation of money should come before us to be allocated, and this is the wrong way to do it. We can't do anything but slap a wrist right now. But I think we need to let all the department heads and people, anybody, any elected or appointed official over a budget know that new allocation of money, even through a grant in a fiscal year, needs to come back before us first.
Mr. Harrison.
Well, that was the point I was going to make, was what Joel just said. We need to make sure that the elected officials, department heads, just understand the protocol. I mean, there's not much we can do here now, but evidently it was a breakdown in them understanding the protocol, because if there wasn't, this wouldn't happen. And so I think we need to make sure that everyone understands that proper protocol and in the proper situations when they have to bring the items back to the Quorum Court, or bring an item to the Quorum Court.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? Not all in favor of forwarding this to the Quorum Court, raise your hand. Opposed, like sign. Okay, item 5.
An appropriation ordinance amending appropriation ordinance number 2011-61, 2012 Benton County budget to appropriate additional funds and authorize additional expenditures in Department 21, Prosecuting Attorney Fund 440.
All right, here's our $20,000. Mr. Allen?
The magic number, 20,000. This came before Finance Committee. It was unanimously approved. The judge answered a lot of the questions that we had. Some of the questions we had were personally stated, as you can see in Article 2. This is for the room on the northeast. Is that right? Northeast corner of the northwest. Sorry, northwest. Yeah, for the Equalization Board. And questions were, why spend $20,000 when we're only spending $2,500 a year on the rent? Well, that building is no longer available to us. The hotel here that's being built has rented that out, according to the judge, so we can't rent that anymore. And other spaces within our developments here are no good options either. We've gone through the list. The courtroom up there that we talked about is not appropriate either. So everybody, I think, felt satisfied that this was the right request, and the judge went through the list. He's got bare bones. He's got VCT tile and parts of it. He's done a good job of managing the cost down. So, with that said, I'll move that we approve this and send it on to the next Quorum Court meeting.
Second.
Motion second on the floor. Discussion. Do we have Herman Miller chairs?
I think they've got some cinder blocks and 2x4s.
Okay.
It's not always get one
pretty comfortable. Ms. Sandlin?
I did have one question, Judge, and that is there computer connectivity
Yes.
in that location?
Yes.
Okay.
Part of the budget.
All right, thank you.
I was over there today working with the IT department, figuring out where the drops need to be.
All right, thank you.
We're good, even since I've submitted this budget. We're going to be good on the money. So.
You don't need the 20.
We might spend less than 20, but that's what we need to leave it at. And we got to have a little bit of fun here. Slager's left, but I have to tell this story, and Sarah will she will back me up on this. My daughter several years ago, remember when he was in business down here on South Main, Bob Sliger, the boot company? I took some boots in there to get them resold. And so I went to pick them up, and I had my Bermuda or whatever kind of shorts that you wear now. They used to call them Bermuda shorts, but I had them shorts and tennis shoes. And so I went to pick them up, and I went in there, and he had them finished, and he said, "You need to try these on." So I took my tennis shoes off and tried the boots on, and they fit fine. And well, my car was only a couple blocks away, so I didn't want to put my tennis shoes back on, so I walked to my car with those boots on. A pair of ostrich boots and shorts. About 30 minutes later, my daughter called me and said, "Dad, somebody saw you walking on Main Streets with shorts and boots on." She busted me, so I was caught. But we're good on the money here.
Well, good thing that was before YouTube.
Yeah, good thing.
Okay, any more discussion on item 5? Yes, Mr. Allen?
Well, Bertie was asking me some questions, so I thought I'd bring it up so everybody can hear it. But the furniture is not included because we've got furniture taken care of. And yes, there will be other things that we use that room for. There'll be all kinds of other training going on in that room. It'll be utilized by the county. So it won't be just strictly an equalization board room. And what else, John?
That's it. Good comment.
What?
That's a good comment. Yes, we can use it 9 months out of the year for something else.
Okay. Any further comments, questions, public comments? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor of forwarding this to the Quorum Court, raise your hand. Opposed, like sign. Okay, this brings us to other business. Mr. Allen.
Yes. Got hit by a surprise with my best friend, our comptroller, Richard McComas, that we forgot. Notice I said we.
I did.
Richard forgot to put the countywide cleanup ordinance on the agenda that we discussed at Finance. And I believe it was for $12,000, is that correct? So we do not have an ordinance, but we can get one. I know we have an unwritten policy that we don't consider business items without an ordinance, but we did discuss it at Finance. It is Richard's fault, but I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Before you make the motion, let me do a point of order.
Yes.
Since we're going to have a committee of 13 meeting immediately before the Quorum Court, then we can still follow the protocol.
That'll work. Well said. That gets Richard off the hook.
But you will have the.
I'll talk about it.
You'll have the ordinance for us, right?
Sarah will. Yeah. Sarah will have the ordinance, but basically it was $12,000. They were asking for $70 for the other cleanup.
The original lowest bid for just the household hazardous waste was, I think, $72. We have done the entire cleanup. We do have a few little odds and ends that we don't have bills for yet, but for is $52. So just the household hazardous waste was $72. So we've saved the county with this cleanup that much.
20,000.
Well,
we know where it went.
Since we're going to be having the Committee of 13 prior to the Quorum Court, you can address this there again, but I would like for you to tell all the JPs what you told the Finance Committee. It was just a really nice report on how well the cleanup went, and all of you that were there. I was in Las Vegas having fun, but y'all were working over there.
And we will have all the final numbers within the 2 weeks, because we issued the contract for the household hazardous waste disposal today. So we'll have those final numbers.
And she is wanting some direction and guidance on are we going to have a fall cleanup, and as one member myself, I'm like, yeah, I think that y'all all think the same thing too.
So I'm thinking less than 60,000, we can do everything.
So she needs to start planning pretty quickly, so I don't know if you want show of hands, Mr. Chairman, or whatever to kind of get.
I think that'd be appropriate.
So I never finished my motion, so I guess there's no motion on the floor, correct?
Correct.
I do too.
I heard this discussion a while ago, and that was a different judge, but this is under my oversight. I heard her say, and we communicate every day, almost every hour. I just heard her say she signed the contract.
That's the one we talked about yesterday.
Okay, we have $40,000 appropriated by this body. We need another $12,000 to finish this cleanup. Now, I don't know where we are on. We've got 40. Is this 12 part of the contract that you agreed to today? I don't want to get into the same deal where we've already signed the contract and we don't have an appropriation. So I'm not sure. I'm bringing this to your attention because I just heard this, and I'm going to let Elizabeth explain it.
Wonderful.
I'm not sure, but we just need to be sure that we appropriated 40. We're asking for another 12 to finish the spring cleanup, period. The fall cleanup, we'll come back to you and say, this is our estimate, and we're going to ask you for whatever we think that is. But right now, today, are we okay?
We are okay. We have money in the line item for waste management for the disposal of $60,000 in the budget.
Okay.
So we're
More
good.
than we're spending.
Yes, more than
Okay, so we're good there.
And we could even wait a little while to do both ordinances together.
That's what it is.
do that with it.
And still have enough money in the budget.
What Richard's talking about, and for those of you that weren't here at Finance, we can save 15 cents if we put it on the same ordinance and discuss it all at the same time and predict what's going to happen in the future. But we know we always need another $20,000. Right? So we'll have to do another ordinance anyway, that's my opinion. But I think that the discussion amongst everybody at Finance was that we do the $12,000 with an ordinance, and then we'll do another one for the fall cleanup when we have more information from Elizabeth, just to know more. That's a pretty good idea, estimate, quote, whatever it's going to be, as to what it's going to cost. So Richard prefers that we go ahead and just budget for both of them.
Or wait. I prefer you wait till we know the answers and do all the work.
Because you don't need 12 now.
And do a cleanup.
Since we have the money.
And just tell them it's going to be
Because elected officials can move money around.
And I'm okay with that. I think though, where I was going before we were timely interrupted, which was good information, that we need to give Elizabeth direction as a Quorum Court Committee 13, whether or not she's going to do the fall cleanup. And I think we all know the answer, but I think we all probably ought to formalize it. So I'll make a motion just to signify our support for the county to go forward with the fall cleanup.
Second.
Motion and second for, I guess, lack of a better word, a resolution of intent to have a fall cleanup. This is not going to go to the Quorum Court, but this is just to give direction to Elizabeth on our support for her setting up the fall cleanup.
To put a budget together.
Right. So does everybody understand what we're voting for? Okay, all in favor of having a fall cleanup, raise your hand. Opposed, like sign.
We didn't ask for public.
It's not on the agenda.
Who seconded that?
Who was the second?
Jones.
So,
Pick one.
And
Just
Mr.
pick one.
Chairman,
Yes.
just to kind of put this to bed then, so is everybody okay with not making any kind of a motion to bring to the next Quorum Court meeting for the 12, and let's just wait to do one ordinance.
Okay, so the only thing I have on the agenda for the Committee of 13 meeting prior to the Quorum Court meeting is discussion of candidates for the Equalization Board position.
Correct.
And I prefer to keep it that way if we can. Unless something really emergency nature comes up. Okay, do we have any other business to come before this body? Announcements? Here.
The EMS consultant report is targeted to be available at the end of this week. It will be put on the website and you'll be able to download it. In talking with Marshall, we will make available hard copies to the JPs of anyone that requests it. If you don't request it, you will not get automatically a hard copy. We want you to take it and read it. You'll be given 10 days to 2 weeks, and we will schedule a day where we will have a review of this proposal. The plan, and I'm open to suggesting to Marshall or to the judge, either one, whatever you want to do, but the thought between Marshall and myself is that we would have a review in the morning, say at 10 o'clock in the morning, invite all those who inputted this study, the mayors and everybody, the chief of police and fire marshals and everybody that inputted this study, to come to that review, and anybody else that wants to. Obviously, it'd be a public and open review. And then that evening, call a special Public Safety Committee meeting and have it reviewed before the Public Safety Committee, and hopefully all the judges, all the, justice of peace could be there and answer questions and make any comments they wanted to with the consultant in attendance, so that we can handle that all in one day and maximize his time here in the area. If you have any comments or suggestions to that, please let me know, or Marshall, and we'll try to accommodate.
Mr. Jones, do you have a question?
I have a comment and suggestion. I'm not retired, Frank. I can be there at 10 o'clock. Do you expect it to go for 4 hours? Or can this all be done at starting, say, 5 o'clock, and we have an hour and a half of review time with everybody in more of an open format, and then a public safety meeting to discuss it? I'm not on the public safety committee meeting. I won't get a vote, but I will be here to discuss it as part of the committee. Are you expecting it to take all day, or every other person that is going to have input into this, except for the public, their job also includes doing things after hours, so they should have no problem being here to discuss that piece after normal business hours.
What I would say is this is the kind of input that I'd like to hear from you. If you feel like that we can do it in one meeting, the report, I haven't seen it yet, but I understand it's less than 100 pages. And I would, if I had to guess, I would say allow 2.5 hours for it, to go through it, to hear it, make comments, get input.
Well, I would hope that a lot of the input's already been made beforehand. That's the whole point of our review. And I don't think we're going to go through the whole report. More of the topics people want to bring up. I'm not going to read the whole report here in those 2.5 hours. I don't know if you think it's going to take that long. It's going to take 2 meetings, and then we can do it during the day. I will be here. Just there are other people that may not be able to be here because of being starting at 10 o'clock.
Well, the same information would be, if we have 2 meetings, one in the morning and one in the evening, the same information would be covered in the morning as in the evening. So it wouldn't be different information that would be available or disseminated. But if you feel like that one meeting is adequate, and those people who have inputted the information from the local townships can make it and be there, we'll call one meeting. That's fine with me.
I'm not on the committee. I'm just suggesting it.
Well, I'm open to ideas. And I'm open to input, so please express yourself.
Mr. Allen?
guess, thanks for asking for input. I guess my feeling is that if you have a meeting during the day with fire chief of whatever town and others that are obviously key people involved with the study, and they come during the day, are they going to be there for that night? And if they are, then why not have one meeting? Because the content of discussion is going to be different. If I only come to the evening meeting and don't go to the day meeting, and for example, the fire chief of Rogers or Bentonville is at the day meeting but not at the night, I won't get to hear his explanation as to why something is reported the way it is. So I'd like to see one meeting at night, and if it takes 2 meetings, it takes 2 meetings. I just don't have the time during the day. I'm not on your committee. I do want to attend. Thank you. And I just feel like that the nighttime would probably be more beneficial for me and probably for the public that wants to be there as well. I know there are a lot of people that work at night as well. Everybody works in the daytime. But it just seems to me that we'll at least have opportunity to be.
Well, is that the common census of the
Mr. Jones?
If it is, that's the way we'll plan it.
I have one short thing. There's one meeting. I don't know if the committee would be able to discuss that and then make an immediate decision or immediate recommendation just following that. They'd need time to have a meeting to have your discussion and come up with some sort of plan about having, how long you're going to take to mull this over, who you want to talk to, things like that. But I don't think any decisions are going to be made in the following committee meeting, although there does need to be one. I'm just saying that you might want to plan that as well. It's going to be a 2 or 5 or 20 meeting process trying to get whatever recommendations come out of this moved forward.
I personally am not looking for a recommendation to come out of this meeting, if that's your question.
Okay.
I think that this is serious enough, and there's enough information here that there'll be questions asked, information transferred, and learned, that you'll want to, again, digest it and think about it and come back and, rehash it.
Sorry. Is this going to be the final draft, or are we going to have input at this time for another draft?
My thought was it would be the final report, but not having seen it and not knowing what's in it,
everything that I heard was that everybody that had buy-in on this would have a period of time to review the draft and submit request back through. And I would submit my request back through the judge and marshal, and I don't, I know y'all done a lot of work, you've gone through it, you made a lot of things, but I'd like to see it before it's final.
You will have an opportunity to get that on your computer the end of this week or the early part of next week. It will be on the county website, and you can download it. And of course, if you want it printed off in a hard copy, you can do that at home, or you can make a request, and Marshall will be sure that you get a hard copy of it.
Who do we make the request to? To Marshall?
To Marshall, please, yes.
Judge Kleiner, do you have something to say?
Well, all this is good discussion. I just want to give you a little more information. We talked about this today. This is the final draft. Okay, this is the final draft that we're going to see on Friday. It's not the final report. It's the final draft, and that's the draft that we had cleaned up after we got the first draft. We had some mistakes in there. There were some errors, and we cleaned those up. There's going to be a 2-week period of the stakeholders reviewing this draft. After that, they are to make all their comments back to us that they know of. We're asking them to give us that in writing. Last year, when the Intergovernmental Council met, is that the name?
Yes.
Is that what it's called? Intergovernmental Council met. We said we would come back together this year when we had this report. Pardon?
Don't you chair that?
I do. But it's only once a year, so that's why I can't remember. But, well, it's only required once a year, but we decided last year we'd try to do it twice a year. And this meeting this year we designated to just cover this report. So here's kind of our thinking is that we get this final draft, or this draft, 2 weeks of discussion, and then we come together and have an intergovernmental meeting, which won't be here because we won't be able to hold all the people. I mean, it's going to have to be out at the junior college or somewhere because all, like you said, could be police chiefs, fire chiefs, ambulance people. And we wanted to get all of their comments before the Public Safety Committee meeting. And certainly all of the JPs, Justice of the Peace, would be invited to that meeting. Wouldn't be required, but you'd come to that meeting, and if you wanted to, and listen to all the comments, listen to what we've talked about. Then I think we could more succinctly discuss it in the Public Finance or the Public Safety Committee meeting. So that's kind of our thinking right now. And to answer, either one of these meetings is not going to be the end of the story. We're not going to make the final decision at either one of these. It's really listening to the comments, addressing the issues, and then when all is said and done, we'll go back to the consultant and try to incorporate those things into a final document. So that's to kind of let you know what I'm thinking the process is, and certainly we'll do whatever you guys want to do, but that was our discussion today. And I just found out, I mean, we just discussed this at 3 o'clock today.
Mr. Brown? So that's interesting. That's good. There'll be great input from the stakeholders. The stakeholders are those that are involved in the study.
Would be, yeah, they'd be the city, the cities, it'd be Bentonville, Rogers, Siloam, any entity that has a current EMS service that's working in the county.
So there'll be a presentation of the study. They'll have read it. There'll be live comment about various subjects of the study, and then they're going to either say what's good, send it to the Public Safety Committee for the Benton County, or they're going to possibly ask for something to be changed. Is that correct?
That's right. They're going to say we like this, we don't like that, and they really are not going to be recommend. Well, I can't tell you what they're going to recommend or what they aren't, but if there's someone that has a real objection to something in that study, that's going to be well noted, and that'll go to the Public Safety Committee, and we can say, Rogers doesn't like this. Bentonville likes this, but doesn't like that.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to allude to, is that not to diminish any participation from these stakeholders, but part of the reason we got the study was to have an independent study, independent body or a person or an entity to tell us what the current situation is and what a possible solution or remedy might be. And so if it's something that Rogers doesn't like or Bentonville doesn't like, I would say tough. That's what it is.
Well, the consultant has agreed to
if it has to do with the accuracy of what's involved, then I would say yes, they have input. But if it's an opinion, I just say I don't care what their opinion is. Correct?
I second that. A little bit harsh, but the consultant will be here. He's paid to come here for one more trip. Now, I don't know what a trip costs. And as much money as we're talking about here, if we need to allow for one more trip for him, that's not a big deal. That's chump change. But the consultant will be at, if we have 2 meetings, he'll be at both of them. If we have 1 meeting, he'll be at that meeting, and he will be here to present his findings in person and answer questions. So, again, this is a question and answer, and yes, no, we do agree, we don't agree, and we'll put all that into our pipe and smoke it, so to speak, and no final answers will be made at this deal. And it's okay with me if we want to have one evening meeting and do all this at one time, or if we want to do it in two.
I think we should. I think we should do an evening meeting and do it all at one time, and try to have those fire chiefs or the stakeholders here, whoever the mayor decides to send.
And it'll be a large meeting. I'm going to tell you, it won't be here. Like I said, it's going to be off campus.
Because
there could be 50, 60, 70 people, maybe 100. I don't know how many people.
Even though I'm not on public safety, I want to hear. That's the time we're going to hear the stuff, whether or not it goes into the report or whatever. We're going to hear what their thoughts are, and for me to make a informed decision on whether or not I believe anything that they're saying at that meeting, or I believe 100% of it. I need to kind of have my opportunity to hear what they're going to say and what it is, and I agree. It's going to be probably better for most people. Not only us, but the stakeholders, and not only the stakeholders, but the general public, to do a evening meeting.
General government will be during the day.
Fine with me. I'm fine with that. Just whatever this court wants to do is fine. So you all got any comments or any more questions from me?
Mr. Judge, can the intergovernmental council meeting be in the evening as well?
Yeah, I think so. Just whenever I call the meeting, I don't think it's...
Then what I'm getting at is I don't think that Frank needs to call a meeting of all the stakeholders before a public safety committee meeting, because they'll all be there.
Well, yeah, if we choose to have one meeting, I'll just combine it and say we're going to have an intergovernmental council meeting / public safety committee meeting, and we'll all just meet at one place in the evening somewhere and find a place that we think is large enough.
Check your weapons at the door.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm good with it. I just want to give you that information so that you can...
Do you think that it can be done in one meeting?
No. To come to a final resolution, absolutely not. But, and how long that, I don't know what comments are going to be made. I mean, we're talking about a lot of money here, and how we're going to provide EMS service for the county, and probably I'll have to get up there and kind of lay out what the options are and what the thinking is, and maybe this consultant will do that. But, we were talking to some people today. If you're in the county of Benton County, I don't care where you live, Sulphur Springs or Gateway, and you dial 911, do you expect an ambulance to come if it's your parents or your kids or what? Yes, you do. So we got to figure out how we're going to pay for this and how we're going to share in this common issue of ambulance service for the county. And we'll work it out. We'll figure it out. It's always just kind of a matter of money. What's the best for every taxpayer in the county?
Are you going to referee these meetings?
You might not want to check your gun at the door, all right?
Yeah, I think I can handle it.
You get him a bullwhip.
Because we have some people here, got a little radical.
Yeah, I know, but as long as everybody realizes it's not us against them, and it's just what's best for everybody in the county, not just us. It's this city, that city, the county residents, and we get that spirit of working together in harmony. I think we'll be fine.
Anybody
else
have
plans? I mean, and here's the reality fact of when it comes to public safety for Benton County. I mean, you look at what happened in Joplin, you look at what happened in other areas of the country, and we all have to work together. And it shouldn't be Bentonville is only concerned about their citizens and Benton County, I mean, we're concerned about everybody's. And I think that any time that a city comes to us with wanting us to partner on something and it's reasonable, we do it.
And that's what we should do. And we shouldn't expect the
that's right.
Bentonville taxpayer to to pay for all the cost of going out here in the county and providing ambulance service. What we're trying to do is get to what's a reasonable number. And who's going to provide it, and how far out. You know, Bentonville, and I use Bentonville because we're in Bentonville, but Rogers, Bentonville, Siloam, reasonably, their ambulance service can only go so far out there. I mean, if you get an ambulance an hour and a half after you call for one, it might not do you much good. So we've got to figure out what we do for all the citizens in the county and how we blend this together to provide the best service.
Law enforcement works together. We should be able to work together with the ambulance service. And you stop and think. I mean, I saw a piece in the paper or TV just the other day where Bentonville Bomb Squad responded to Fort Smith. You know, and if they can send a truck down that far, I would assume they can send an ambulance right out here.
Well, to my knowledge, I think there's ambulance service in every corner of this county. I don't think there's anywhere in this county that doesn't have ambulance service right now.
Yeah.
I know there's some places in the county that are receiving ambulance service that may or may not be being reimbursed by the county, but there's service here now, and we'll solve this thing. So,
Ms. Sandlin, did you have something for the judge?
Okay, well, not for the judge per se,
Okay.
but if we get all of the stakeholders in a meeting, there's no way that we can get that and safety unless we're planning on bringing snacks and serving them at midnight.
Are you going to bring them?
Not me. Quit cooking. So I would suggest that we, as many as possible, attend the intergovernmental council meeting and then call a safety meeting and go from there.
At a different time.
At a different time.
I'm assuming, Judge, is this correct? And it may not be. You're thinking about an what do you call it?
Governmental.
Intergovernmental meeting would be totally dedicated to this issue that evening.
yes.
Yes, okay. So that there wouldn't be any other subjects brought up and discussed other than this
We don't
consulting
have time.
I was going to say, that would do it.
We won't have time no matter when you started. No matter when you
can't now.
It's going to be a 2-hour process.
And, I don't know, it's conceivable, if it starts at 7 or whatever time, 6, and it goes until 10, and you want to call a second meeting or something, you do that. I don't know, I haven't seen the report, so I can't tell you how long it's going to be. But there's going to probably be some opinions and a lot of verbiage going on.
You think?
Yeah. Make sure the AC's on the building. You'll know how they...
Tom's bringing a gag.
I think we need to move on this. Frank, in light of the opinions that have been disseminated at this point, my personal opinion is that they have the Intergovernmental Council meeting at a large venue, and then and as many JPs hopefully show up as possible, and then after that you call a committee meeting and then go from there. Probably not all in the same evening.
I don't know. I'm totally flexible with this. I'm flexible to the point that I want everybody to be communicated with and everybody to have time to study it and make comments.
Okay. Ms. Sandlin, do you have something? Announcement?
Okay. Personnel will have meetings on Thursday, June the 21st, 6 p.m. here. Also on the 26th at 6 p.m. It's mid-year personnel request.
The 21st and the 26th. What days are those? Thursdays?
Tuesdays.
Okay.
21st and 26th can't be both.
Thursday. The 21st is Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday and Tuesday.
Thursday the 21st, right?
Yeah.
And then the Quorum Court is 28th.
Correct.
So we'll have one on a Thursday, then the following Tuesday,
They want a lot
and then the Quorum Court will be on Thursday.
And
find that
at
out.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, any more announcements? Any more business to come before this, or, I'm sorry, any additional public comments? Okay, seeing none, I move for a motion.
Adjourn.